Now a look at all the latest stories making the headlines this afternoon with the ITV Lunchtime News.
The final few hours before the polls open, but amid the scramble for votes, the extraordinary concessions of defeat within the Conservatives. Just hours after Boris Johnson made a last-minute appearance to woo voters, Rishi Sunak is asked why he's bringing out the sub.
What's really important is Conservatives have come together, as Boris has said, right? They're warning rightly about what a Labour supermajority would mean for people.
And yet, in an explosive intervention, the former Home Secretary Suella Braverman concedes defeat, saying it's over. We'll be live with our campaign teams across the country on the eve of what could be an historic election. Also this lunchtime. Jamaica braces for Hurricane Beryl. The deadly storm has battered other islands. It's expected to hit within hours. England search for their spark as they gear up for a Switzerland showdown in the Euros. And quads against the odds, the couple celebrating the birth of their 4 naturally conceived sons.
I was in shock because I was more for survival mode, scared in case something happened to any of us. And then when the 4 of them were there, still when you come in and go to the beds, I'm still in a wee bit shocked.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Yasmin Bodelbai.
Good afternoon. It is exactly 6 weeks to the day since Rishi Sunak stood in the pouring rain and asked us to choose who should run the country. Today, under more grey skies, the party leaders and candidates have just hours left to convince voters why it should be them. But on the eve of the polls opening, any sense of unity within the Conservatives was shattered by the intervention of former Home Secretary Suella Braverman. She wrote in the Telegraph newspaper, "It's over," and the party needed to prepare for the reality and frustration of opposition. The Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer responded to Tory warnings his party would win an unprecedented majority by saying that it amounted to voter suppression and was a desperate attempt to try to get people to stay at home rather than to go out and vote. Well, we are live with our correspondents across the country to get a sense of how the campaign is unfolding this lunchtime. But first, our political correspondent Shihab Khan on the final few hours of the race to number 10.
It was a last-minute attempt to inject some excitement and energy into the Tory election campaign. Boris Johnson was back last night, albeit fleetingly, making a brief cameo on the campaign trail.
None of us can sit back as a Labour government prepares to use a sledgehammer majority to destroy so much of what we have achieved.
Notably, the former Prime Minister didn't share the stage with Rishi Sunak, who was, if you remember, instrumental in bringing him down. Today he was on ITV's This Morning, where he was asked about the last-minute intervention by his old boss.
He's actually been supporting candidates across the country, and you've been seeing that over the past
But
few
not
weeks.
publicly, not like he did last night.
No, but what's really important is Conservatives have come together, as Boris has said, right? Warning rightly about what a Labour supermajority would mean for people.
There's not long to go, and the polls suggest he is still a long way behind.
I'm fighting hard for every vote. And here's what I'd say, actually. Here's what I'd say. We just saw some analysis which showed that just 130,000 people can make the difference in this election. Right? So everyone watching who thinks, oh, this is all a foregone conclusion, it's not. Your vote matters.
While he says he's fighting on, his former Home Secretary is much less positive. Writing in the Telegraph, Suella Braverman said, "One needs to read the writing on the wall. It's over, and we need to prepare for the reality and frustration of opposition." It is a remarkable intervention on the eve of polling day, and while his allies say they are fighting on, they're aware of what could be coming.
There is a distinct possibility here of a landslide that's the largest that there's ever been in British electoral history. And as I say, under those circumstances, it is absolutely vital that we have an opposition in there that is strong enough to challenge that government through time.
Today, Keir Starmer spent his morning campaigning in Carmarthen in Wales, where he dismissed any thought that his party was complacent.
We are fighting for every vote, and across the country there will be constituencies which will go down to the wire. And therefore, we will continue to fight until 10 o'clock tomorrow night, making the case that change only happens if you vote for it.
The latest opinion polls also suggest the Liberal Democrats might do well, with some even predicting they might overtake the Tories. Ed Davey, in his usual campaigning style, tried to have as much fun as possible today in Wiltshire, and like his rivals, also said he was taking nothing for granted.
Well, we're not complacent. We want to make sure we work through to 10 p.m. tomorrow to make sure we earn the votes. But across the home counties in former Tory heartlands, what I've called the Blue Wall, in the West Country, across rural Britain, in rural Wales, rural Scotland, rural England, we're finding so many former Conservatives switching to us. And so, we haven't put a ceiling on our ambition.
These are the final moments of campaigning before we all go to the polls. And in less than 48 hours, we will know which of these two men will have won the election and will be our Prime Minister. Shihab Khan, ITV News, Westminster.
Well, let's join our correspondents and reporters who've been with the party leaders throughout the campaign. Our political correspondent Romilly Weeks is with the Conservatives in Hampshire. Carl Dinnan has been with the Labour leader and is in Bridgend in South Wales. Chloe Keedy is with the Liberal Democrats in Winchester, and our Scotland correspondent Peter Smith is in Glasgow. Let's begin with Romilly.
Well, the Prime Minister is sticking close to his Southampton roots today, visiting only Hampshire, which is quite a contrast to that Three Nations dash that Keir Starmer is attempting. The danger is that it feels like rather a low-energy end to a campaign which by any measure has been dogged by difficulty, starting perhaps how it began with more of a whimper than a bang. That impression certainly has not been helped by Mel Stride saying today that not only is Labour likely to be heading to a landslide, but one of historic proportions. The tactic there is clearly to try and scare those who might be thinking, wavering Tory voters who might be thinking of voting for another party, back into the fold, and to also help undecideds make up their minds. What is clearly not helpful at all, though, is that intervention by Suella Braverman suggesting that the election is over and starting the post-mortem, the recriminations before the campaign has finished, just at the point where the Prime Minister needs to find some last breath to inspire people to go out and vote for them. As one frustrated Tory voter who I just met on the streets near here said, are they even trying to win?
Well, by contrast to Rishi Sunak, Keir Starmer is spending his day travelling across Great Britain, starting in Wales, going to Scotland, coming back to England this evening. He's not, I don't think, at all worried about Boris Johnson. He says he's been arguing for 6 weeks that the Tories are chaotic and divided, and that with 24 hours to go, they've just wheeled out Exhibit A. I think he is more concerned, though, about the things that Mel Stride and other Tories have been saying about it being a foregone conclusion that Labour will win a large majority. Keir Starmer has accused them of trying to suppress the vote, trying to get people to stay at home. And that is something that worries Labour candidates. Some candidates that I spoke to today said there are a lot of undecideds. Up to 1 in 8 people in this election are thought to be still undecided or so close to polling day, and that is a concern. Another Labour candidate said that with 24 hours to go, they would normally be going round knocking on the doors of the people they know want to vote Labour, reminding them to go and vote tomorrow. But this time round, instead, they're going and knocking on the doors of undecideds, still trying to persuade them to come out and vote for Labour.
Well, we are on the final leg of this Lib Dem battle bus tour that has taken us just in the past few days all the way down the length of the country, right the way from John O'Groats in the north of Scotland down to Land's End at the tip of Cornwall. And it is a campaign, isn't it, that's been absolutely littered with stunts. We saw Ed Davey on Monday doing a bungee jump in Eastbourne. Today, this morning, as you heard, he's been driving a big yellow tractor around a field in Chippenham. It isn't something that's gone down well with everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it is all part of the party's strategy to try and get their leader noticed, to try and get him seen. The people they're trying to appeal to are voters in these so-called Tory blue wall seats, and the people they want to win over are referred to by party strategists as Tory switchers. So they're people that voted Conservative in the past but may not want to in this election for whatever reason, and they're hoping they can convince them to switch to the Lib Dems. I should say that a lot of these target seats are places that voted Liberal Democrat in the past, and they're hoping that they can win people back. How well their strategy has worked, well, it's not long now till we find out. As far as the battle bus goes, we're about to get back on. We've got one more stop this afternoon, and we're told one more stunt that's being described by people on board the bus as the grand finale.
Well, we have a real contest here in Scotland between the SNP and Labour. It's been a decade of dominance for the SNP, but the polls have mostly had Labour in front in Scotland until today. A boost for the SNP campaign on the last day of campaigning put them in front of Labour by the finest of margins. That's energised the SNP campaign. John Swinney has been out and about in the country, as you can see here, because he knows this election is going down to the wire. What he has also conceded today, for the first time to me in an interview, is that there is some jeopardy for the independence cause. He's put independence front and centre, saying that if the SNP wins a majority, that they would have a mandate to have talks for a second independence referendum. But I put to him today, what is the risk if you do not? Here's what he said.
If somebody believes in independence and they vote for any other party other than the SNP, then they're running the risk that independence is damaged as a cause, as a consequence, because every Labour MP that's elected in Scotland will use that as a means of attacking independence.
This is really interesting because Scotland's First Minister has not conceded that there was a risk to the independence cause. He's saying here that there could be damage done if the SNP don't get that majority. He's hoping that this will be a rallying call to those people who believe in independence but were thinking perhaps of lending their vote to Labour in this election for change across the UK. But we know about a quarter of the seats in Scotland are regarded by the pollsters as simply too close to call. So we might have Suella Braverman saying it's game over in England. Not so in Scotland. In fact, this election here is too close to call.
Thank you to all our campaign teams. You've clocked up a lot of miles. Thank you. Well, the Green Party has also begun their final day of campaigning. The party's co-leader, Carla Denyer, is spending the day in a key battleground for the Greens, where the result is expected to be close between them and Labour. And we'll bring you the exit poll and the results as they come in with our unrivalled election programme tomorrow night. Here are Tom and Anushka with the details.
When the voting's over and the exit poll is revealed, our unrivalled team of experts, including Nicola Sturgeon, George Osborne and Ed Balls, will break down what it means for you, the parties and the country.
And throughout the night, as results come in, we'll be going deep into the data to understand not just who's going to hold power, but how the new mix of MPs will shape the way the UK is run.
It could be one heck of a night, so please do join us for Election 2024, the results, live.
We will, Tom, we will. Do join Tom, Anushka and the whole team tomorrow night. Still ahead this lunchtime, England in training for the other big competition. And the house is about to get much noisier. The couple who've had naturally conceived quads. Before that, though, Hurricane Beryl is hurtling towards Jamaica and is expected to make landfall in the next few hours. The Category 4 storm has already caused unimaginable damage in Grenada and St Vincent and has claimed the lives of at least 7 people. Jamaica is under a national curfew, with winds expected to hit 150 miles an hour. Chris Jepson has the latest.
Hurricane Beryl swept through Carriacou with force, leaving nothing untouched. Before and after satellite images show how the landscapes changed in Grenada. This the devastation Beryl left on Union Island. Residents thankful they're still alive.
I survived in my Tyrant area. It was a hard 4 hours battling.
You like a movie where you just have a lot of devastation? That is how you don't like. It's in a mess.
150-mile-per-hour winds fueled by record warm waters will hit Jamaica in the coming hours.
An island-wide curfew will be in effect between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. This is to ensure the safety of everyone during the passage of the storm.
Residents have been stocking up, moving boats onto land, and boarding up homes and businesses.
We're doing what we can, but ultimately we've also been focused on ensuring that citizens have the information. So those who are in low-lying areas, those who are in flood-prone areas, go to any of our 780-plus shelters, because ultimately saving lives is our first priority. Property is second.
Beryl's taken 6 lives already. Jamaica's braced for the coming hours. Chris Jepson, ITV News.
Jay Slater's mother has spoken of her pain and agony in a new statement after Spanish police ended their search for the missing teenager. The 19-year-old disappeared on the Spanish island on June the 17th. A GoFundMe page for Jay's family has now passed the £48,000 mark, with more than 4,000 people donating. To the Euros now, where England have returned to training after that nail-biting great escape against Slovakia on Sunday. Gareth Southgate's side face Switzerland in the quarter-finals on Saturday. Our sports editor Steve Scott has the latest from the England camp in Blankenheim.
So far, it's been a pretty relaxed week after that leg-sapping extra-time win against Slovakia at the weekend. On Monday, the players had a recovery session. Those who played, those that didn't, came out here and did a full session. Monday night, there was an impromptu concert at the hotel from Ed Sheeran. He'd been invited in from the FA. And then yesterday, Tuesday, was a day off for all the players. Some of them flew in their families. They were allowed in the hotel. They spent the day with them. Jude Bellingham, as it happens, went up to a nearby town, Erfurt, where he did a little bit of a walkabout, attracted a lot of attention, as you'd expect. Of course, he's still got that potential charge hanging over him for an obscene gesture at the end of the Slovakia game. Suggestions, by the way, that it was aimed at the Slovakian bench are just simply not true, because if you look at where he did make that gesture, it was nowhere near there. But still, UEFA are considering whether to charge him or not. But today, the real business starts again. Gareth Southgate, of course, coming up for his 100th game as England manager. And if they lose, it could very well, and is most likely to be, his very last game. He's got to make one enforced change. Mark Gahey was booked the other night, so he can't play. We expect Ezri Konsa to come in for him. And then there's that lingering question about Luke Shaw. Is he really fit or not? We're speaking to him later, and we might get an answer to that question. Switzerland, by the way, will be the best team that England have faced to date. So you've got to remember, in their first knockout game, they beat the reigning champions, Italy, 2-0. So England will have to bring their A game if they're going to get through this game this weekend, and so far that has eluded them.
Steve Scott reporting from the Euros. To Wimbledon now, where tennis fans are in for a treat later this week. Emma Raducanu is going to play in the mixed doubles with her fellow Brit Andy Murray. The pair have been granted a wild card. Well, Murray, of course, made the reluctant decision to pull out of the singles yesterday, having run out of time in its bid to recover from back surgery. Now, it's the 900th anniversary of the city of Edinburgh, which has been marked today by the royals. The King and Queen attended a service at St Giles Cathedral to mark the milestone anniversary. Prince William, Prince Edward and Sophie were also there. Later, the King and Queen will visit Edinburgh Castle to lead the celebrations. And finally, the quads who've defied some incredible odds. Brothers Rory, Harrison, Ben and Noah were born at the Edinburgh Royal Infirmary, each weighing not much more than a bag of sugar. They were conceived naturally, and their proud parents, Arlene and John, are, as you can imagine, in a bit of a state of shock. Faye Barker has their story.
Not just one new baby to look after, or two, but 4 new bundles of joy. brothers Rory, Harrison, Ben and Noah. The quadruplets, born at Edinburgh's Royal Infirmary, are now 7 weeks old, but at birth they only weighed just under 3 pounds each.
I think I was in shock because I was more for like survival mode, scared in case something happened to any of us. So, and then when the four of them were there, still when you come in and go to the beds, I'm still in a wee bit shocked.
It's no surprise Arlene was shocked. Only 1 in 700,000 people have naturally conceived quads. And Dad John is overjoyed at his growing brood.
Ecstatic, aye. It's quite hard to describe, to be honest. It's amazing. It really is amazing. Yeah, I'm ready to go. I just can't wait to get them home and yeah, just all be a nice wee family, you know what I mean, or a big family.
A team of 20 medics, including doctors and midwives, assembled to welcome the babies into the world safely. And Arlene was monitored closely throughout her pregnancy.
I don't think it's anything that any of us will forget for a long, long time. And the chances of this happening again is pretty slim, so it'll definitely be remembered.
The couple already have 2 children, so have jumped from being a family of 4 to a family of 8. The babies remain in hospital for now, but everyone's preparing for a very special homecoming. Faye Barker, ITV News.
A reminder of our main story this lunchtime. The political parties have hit the road for the final time in a last-ditch effort to secure votes ahead of the general election. After 6 weeks of campaigning, leaders of all the parties are touring the country to make their final arguments. Polls open at 7 in the morning and close at 10 in the evening. And that is it this lunchtime. Mary's here with the evening news at 6:30 from all of the lunchtime team. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now.